Hey everybody, welcome to part two of my habitat improvement on my piece of land that Dan came and hunted in Indiana last year. The first video, if you haven't seen that, you may want to go back and watch it. It was essentially just an overview of the property and then the changes I was going to make to that property to hopefully improve it for this year's deer season. And so for part two here, it's kind of going to be focusing on planting food plots, which I know is a very kind of a controversial topic. It's something that people have very strong opinions on, and me personally, I don't know enough about them yet to really make good decisions on food plots per se. So I reached out to a number of people that I trust in the industry that's been doing food plotting and habitat improvement for a very long time, and obviously the first one being Dan. And then the second one was a guy named Rob Hobbery that lives here in the town I grew up in and live in. Actually went to school with my dad. He's helped people like Mark Kenyon on the back 40. He helps and works for Whitetail Properties, and he's an expert in forestry and habitat improvements. He's been doing it his whole life. I believe he's in his mid-50s now, and went to school for it and has been doing that line of work ever since. So between Dan and Rob and a couple of my buddies from Wisconsin that have been doing food plotting and getting into food plotting, their entire lives, they really compiled what I thought was the best scenario for my food plots out out in that property. Now, I did plant spring food plots this year. I planted fall ones last year. They were pretty poor. I probably didn't do everything I needed to do for them, like fertilizer and lime. And this year I really tried to make sure I got all that done. I did do a soil test this winter on the two food plots to make sure I had the proper soil preparation to give the plants, I guess, the best chance of growing. So yeah, I was going to take you along on how I ended up doing that and kind of explain why we put the food plots where they were, why we planted what we planted. The first food plot we planted was going to be a Clover and alfalfa mixed food plot, and the seeds I used, again, we're not sponsored by anybody. This is just what I used. I thought you guys would like to know, and if it's a good product and it works out well. If it grows well, obviously there's a lot of factors that can affect that, but maybe it's a product you want to check out. The first one was called Mass Builder by Grandpa Ray's. I believe they're out of Wisconsin, so everybody's maybe watching this is maybe familiar with them. And they seem like they got a lot of information on food plotting as well. It was just a small half-acre food plot that's kind of tucked in the corner of this CRP field that's on the property, and it's probably, I would say, 80 yards from the property line, and on the other side of the property line is a kind of a little swamp where there's a lot of bedding, and you can see that in this aerial footage I'll put up here, and I'll point out where that all is and where the food plot is. That particular spot I'm really excited about. I think a lot of big bucks will be using that area. I had some nice bucks in there last year. That bedding area is actually the bedding area where the buck I killed this year came out of, and by no means was that per se a big buck, but in the past big bucks have used that area. I'm hoping with that Clover plot there, gives those bucks a security area near bedding where they'll come to daylight to feed on that plot before going out into the big crop fields. So that's plot number one. Plot number two is a spot pretty close to where we kind of park typically on that farm, and we park on that farm up by this little house that is on the property that someone rents. I park up there. Makes it a little bit of a longer walk, but in my mind, and maybe a false sense of security for me, but in my mind, I think if I park by that house, if there is a bedding spot on the farm where deer can see that house, which I don't think there is, they're probably less likely to think anything of it because people are coming in and out of that house all the time. Um, I am going to reroute my entry to that farm. I used to just walk down the farm lane to go into the farm. I'm kind of going to route it around to this old railroad track that's on the property, just to mix it up a little bit. I do have to be a little bit careful because there is some bedding on that railroad track, so I may go in there this summer and kind of clear a lane through that railroad track to where I can quietly sneak through there without the deer being alert. And then I'll be able to exit my stands, which is almost just as important as entering your stand. I'll be able to exit out of that property through that railroad track without going down into the crop fields at night, where a lot of the deer are probably going to be after dark. That'll just keep me from unnecessarily bumping deer off that crop field, which a lot of people have the attitude when you're leaving at night. Oh, who cares? I'll bump them. They probably won't do anything. And you know what? Probably most of the deer don't. But I would say those big mature deer, I think they probably care about getting bumped off of any place, whether it be their food source or a travel route or whatever the case may be, at any time by a human. It probably throws up a big red flag. And I do have a problem with this property of deer sticking around, and maybe that's contributing to some of that. Me bumping those deer at night, walking out through the crop fields is probably not a good idea. So I'm going to reroute that exit through an area where I think the deer will be either passed by the time I get there, or they're not using it at all. For the second food plot, it's up pretty close to where the parking lot is. I did it for a couple reasons, and I'll explain those reasons. The first is there is some really good bedding areas near that food plot. It's kind of it's really close to an old railroad track, which is a main travel corridor for deer in the rut. And secondly, I built a shooting house out of some lumber I had from a remodel I did on my barn. I had some tin left over, and I had some 2x4s and plywood, and I had some 4x4 posts all left over. So it didn't cost me very much to build that shooting house. And now the thing about the shooting house is, I know I'll probably get some comments about that, and that's fine. The reason I put it there, it's not because I'm not going to enjoy sitting in that shooting house and hunting, but my dad's getting older. My dad's still in good shape and everything. He has a set of beast sticks to use on mobile hunting, but honestly, he'd probably rather sit in that shooting house and enjoy himself. Secondly, my wife, she's a fair weather hunter. She likes to be outside, but she's gonna enjoy sitting in that shooting house and have a good experience hunting, versus me dragging her around, 2 miles back into the public land and through a swamp or something. So I also have a little boy that's coming up, and I really I like to get him out there every now and again. And the shooting house is probably a good place to go and maybe watch some does or whatever. I think there's probably something to be said about making sure that he understands that hunting is hard, and to be successful you have to do hard things for hunting. So by no means am I planning on having him set in there and play his video games or whatever when he gets older. But when he's really young, and just to get him to go out and experience hunting and watching animals, I think that's a good plan. And it's close to the parking lot, so we don't have to walk very far to get to it if we want to do a quick hunt. With that being said, and that food plot is an acre. I ended up planting beans in that food plot, and I planted beans from a company called Eagle Forage. Those were recommended to me by several people, but Rob Hobry, that lives here in town, that works for Whitetail Properties, is the one that kind of pushed me towards those beans. He's had really good luck here in southern Indiana with those beans. So that's what I decided to plant. And when me and Rob sat down and talked about what I wanted to plant, he really questioned me on what other people are planting in the area. And I don't think, to my knowledge at least, that there's many food plots going in my area in that particular section. But I do note that there is very little beans in that area. The farmer that farms on that area does not plant beans in those fields. I've been hunting there for probably 25 years now, and I've never seen a bean field that I can recall in that area. There's one small one just to the what would be the west of that farm, but this year it's going to be in corn, as long as they do the crop rotation. But there is no crop rotation on my farm; it's just corn. So we thought it'd be a good idea to put some beans in the area there. A couple things I'm worried about. For one, it is just an acre, so I'm hoping that the deer don't over browse it. And I think that's what these Eagle Forge beans are a little bit more browse resistant than other beans. They kind of have a good regrowth feature to them, if you want to say, that particular hybrid of bean. So I'm just going to see how it goes. I may have to replant them or replant something in there this fall if they get eaten down to the ground. Again, I took a good soil sample on that particular piece of property, or that particular food plot, and I applied the proper amount of fertilizer and lime to both of the food plots. As far as the lime goes, I was a little bit worried because everything I read is that pelletized lime or ag lime, it does not react to the soil very quickly. So essentially you have these pHs in your soil, and they have to be at a certain level to optimize your plants taking in nutrition or your fertilizer. And I found this product called Deer Grow, and what it is, it's a liquid lime, and I really like the idea of it, so I gave it a try. Essentially, what it is it's a lime alternative. So this year, my thinking was, well, I spread this lime, but I'm probably not going to see a benefit from it until later in the year. This liquid lime raises the pH a lot quicker than what traditional lime is going to. So I thought, well, if I spray this liquid lime after I've seeded, that'll react to the soil quicker. It'll raise that pH a little bit quicker, and then I will, I'll see a better production in my food plots. And then by the time that wears off, maybe the lime that I spread earlier in the year will be working by then, or will be absorbed by then. So if you guys have a new food plot and you want a super easy way, super cheap way of getting your pH levels raised a little bit, look at that. I think it's made by Deer Grow, and it's called Plot Start. It was easy to spread. You could spray it with a sprayer, or you can. I use my 4-wheeler ATV sprayer for it, and it's like a 2.5 gallon jug of it is like applying 1 ton of lime to your food plot. So really efficient product. So look those guys up. Again, not a sponsor, just a cool product I found, and I thought maybe it would be worth trying out. But yeah, a couple of other things. Just a note, I guess. I did most of it all with just a small tractor that I have, and then a tiller. I also have a 4-wheeler with a kind of a cultipacker that I used, and that's pretty much all the equipment I had. I hand sprayed all the lime and the fertilizer and all that. So yeah, I did it. I think as affordable as I could. A lot of people already have 4-wheelers, and then to get a small tractor, I'm sure so everybody knows someone that has one that maybe you could rent off of, or they'd let you borrow. So just something to think about. A lot of people don't do food plots because they don't have the equipment, and in reality, I mean, it's going to take you a little bit longer, but it doesn't really take that much equipment. But what I found now, I ran into some problems with my tractors. Only a 25 horsepower one, and I was going to rent some equipment to plant the beans, which honestly would have been more efficient, but and it was actually really cheap. It was like $50 to rent the bean drill, but my tractor would not. The hydraulic system wasn't strong enough to work the drill, so that wasn't an option. So I did broadcast the beans onto the freshly tilled dirt, and then rolled them in. We'll see how it works. I actually doubled my seed rate. Because we've kind of figured that, with the germination maybe quite a bit lower, since I didn't actually drill them in like you're supposed to. But we'll see how they go. We have been getting a little bit of decently timed rain. We were in a little bit of a drought there for a couple weeks, but it seems like the next few days are supposed to get rain, so I'm excited about that. I'm always nervous about spending the money and the time on food plots and then it not raining. So yeah, so this portion of the habitat improvement is kind of going to be part two. Let me know what you guys want me to show you on the property. If you want me to video us putting stands up, or we put up a saddle setups on that property as well. I can do some of that. I think I'll do before season starts. I'll maybe do one more video, kind of show you the outcome, and maybe we'll assess how the food plots did, and maybe look at those beans and see if the deer ate them to the ground. My deer numbers in that area aren't real high. If I see a few deer and an evening set, that's been a good set. So it's not like I'm seeing 20 deer a night. It's more of, if I see 3 to 5, that's a good number. So I think it'll be okay, but it may not be. I guess time will tell. So yeah, leave some comments down below. Let's have some conversation about this kind of stuff. Let's have some civil conversation about this kind of stuff, I should say. We don't try to avoid the negativity or some of the judgmental comments. That'd be awesome, guys. I think we can learn a lot from this kind of stuff, whether it be I did a bunch of stuff wrong, or I was doing some things right, and hopefully you guys can benefit from what I learned this year. Yeah, I will see you guys on the next one.